Hey everybody, Steve Schirmer, the Golf Gaming Podcast here with your one and done picks for the 2024 Genesis Scottish Open. Took a week off last week for the John Deere. Had a decent pick, but Davis Thompson was a very popular pick last week. So that probably was the way to go. But we are on to the Scottish Open. We're 1 week away from the Open Championship. Very excited about that. But first, we got to get through this event. And even though it is in Scotland, this isn't really a true links golf course. I mean, by definition, a links golf course is by the sea. This one has a few holes by the sea, but most of it is played inland. But I think the biggest flaw about this golf course that prevents it from being a true links course is that it's a big aerial game, where these greens are very undulated. Can't really bounce the ball up to the green like you would to a true Scottish links course. So this is definitely more of an American style golf course. And that's probably why the last few Scottish Opens that have been had there, it's been more of an American flair, American style of golf, driver heavy. Those types of players have done very well at this tournament. Also, the golf course, too, just lends itself to really good driving. Tom Doak designs his golf courses where he doesn't like taking drivers out of these guys' hands. Now, even though they made some enhancements to try and deter that a little bit, it's been pretty good drivers for the most part who have done very well here. Length is an advantage, but there's one guy in particular I like this week that doesn't have length, but still can do very well this week. But I think another thing, too, to look out for as well is the last couple tournaments, it's gotten some adverse weather conditions, so it can play very tough when the wind is up. But it seems like with some of the rain that's going to come today and not a ton of wind, at least after tomorrow morning, I expect this to be a pretty gettable golf course. I think there's going to be a lot of birdies. We've seen some pretty low scoring tournaments at the Renaissance Club. At the Scottish Opens over the last few years, I expect something similar. So I want a guy who drives it relatively pretty good, pretty good with their irons from over between like 150 and 200, can take advantage of the par fives and just get a lot of birdies. So I got 5 guys that I like this week. Let's kick off here. So number 5, let's go with Thomas Detry. And this is a perennial loser. And anybody who's ever bet Thomas Detry definitely has a lot of scar tissue and heartbreak, but he has all of the tools to win this event. He almost won this event back in 2021. He probably should have. I think he blew it down the back 9, lost in the playoff to Minwoo Lee and Matthew Fitzpatrick in that tournament, but he drives the ball great, makes a ton of birdies. He's shown some high ceiling this season. He's also done pretty well at a Tom Doak golf course earlier this season, Memorial Park. I think there's some pretty good crossover between things that work there and work well here. So maybe this will be the breakthrough tournament for Thomas Detry at the Scottish Open, and he gets his first win on a elevated series, either the DP World Tour or the PGA Tour. So if you are short on star power on the list of guys you're looking for one and done, I think Thomas Detry probably is a good pick this week. Number 4, Ben On, another guy that if you're probably struggling coming up for a big name this week, that's somebody maybe to go to. A lot of similar things I said about Thomas Detry you can say about Ben On. Ben On just doesn't win. He's a heartbreaker, but he has the tools to do very well at the Renaissance Club. He's a really good driver, makes a ton of birdies, good iron player, very streaky player. He has shown some ceiling at this event too. He shot his first round 61 last year, finished top 5 in this event. I'm not concerned about him in a low scoring tournament, considering he almost won the Sony Open. He's putting pretty well too. So that is a guy I like this week. For a possible one and done pick, Ben On, number 4. Number 3, let's go with some bigger names. How about Viktor Hovland? And, it hasn't been all that great for Viktor Hovland after the PGA, where he, did very well. Seems like, he really struggled at Pinehurst around the green. He did okay at the Travelers. He had a couple low rounds, I think, over the weekend. But, the one thing that he continues to struggle with, and it's actually regresses around the green. Well, at the Renaissance Club, it's actually one of the easier around the green golf courses on the PGA Tour as far as how you're able to gain strokes there. It's pretty easy for the most part to get up and down. Unless you're in a pop bunker there, but you can putt the ball back up to the surface. Being in the rough, there's not much of a penalty around the green. And if it's really soft, benign conditions where he can make a lot of birdies, I think he can do very well at this type of tournament. And, other than around the green stuff, the iron play has been much better over the last few tournaments. He's been driving it really good. The putter still is pretty good. And he makes a ton of birdies. So I like Viktor Hovland this week as a potential one and done pick. That's somebody definitely to consider. Number 2, Kum Morawa. I don't think people are really on Morikawa this week. There is definitely the bomber narrative, and I can see it. I agree with it. You have to drive the ball very well at the Renaissance Club because it asks you to hit driver a lot. But despite Morikawa's lack of length, he still is one of the leaders in strokes gained off the tee this season. He is driving it really good because he hits a bunch of fairways. I saw an article a couple weeks ago about how Scotty Scheffler has sacrificed a little bit of distance to hit more fairways with the new QI 10. That seemed like that's also helping Morikawa this season. And, as long as he's gaining strokes off the tee, I don't care if you do it with distance or accuracy. If you're just gaining strokes on the field, that's good enough for me. And then everything else about Morikawa is pretty good fit for this place. Obviously, a great iron player from over 150, makes a ton of birdies too. And he's putting a lot better this season. So if the scoring is low, he can keep up. The one knock on him as well is his history at the Renaissance Club isn't very good, but I can explain that away. In 2021, he was having an equipment issue at the Renaissance Club, got that fixed the following week. He didn't like how the irons were interacting with the turf, got that fixed at the Open the following week, and ended up winning. So the poor performance at the Scottish Open that year, I can explain away due to an equipment issue. In 2022, he just was in bad weather. And back then, I don't think he could handle very good weather. Now he's actually shown that he can handle some adverse conditions and windy conditions. He's proven that, he can still maintain when the weather is not ideal. But even so, with favorable weather conditions at the Renaissance Club this week, I think that's going to be really good for Collin Morikawa to go to a golf course where he can drive it good, hit a lot of birdies, soft golf course. I think that's going to play in his favor this week. And I think he's going to have a good showing at this tournament. But number one, though, because I didn't have Morikawa or Hovland at my disposal, but I still had this guy available. How about Wyndham Clark? And he's going to be my one and done pick this week. Streaky player, but can make a lot of birdies. If you're buying the bomber narrative, that is somebody you really want to go to. He finished T9 at the Travelers, so maybe he's coming up with a bit of a hot streak. He's got a decent course history at the Renaissance Club already. He's been pretty good at a couple of the comp courses this place. A lot of the driver heavy golf courses where there isn't any giant penalty for missing fairways. That's what the Renaissance Club is, and that's what Wyndham Clark does pretty well at. Obviously, he's a great putter, so if the scoring conditions are really low, he can keep up. So I really like Wyndham Clark this week. I bet him in the outright market, and he's going to be my one and done pick for the 2024 Genesis Scottish Open. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the Golf Gambling Podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to our podcast on Apple or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. Go follow us on Twitter. Follow us on TikTok. We're putting out good content there. And with that, good luck with your picks for the 2024 Scottish Open. Good luck on your one and done contest. And we will see you for the final major of the year next week for the Open Championship.